Welcome back to some new PettyRevenge stories. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Holding Traffic. When driving along the Western Highway towards Melton, there was an unusual amount of traffic. It was moving extremely slowly. Back then, my ex and I owned a play center and cafe. We'd close at 4, out by 5 and head home. Traffic was always bad, as it's a 2-lane road with thousands of people on it, so a 20-minute drive in the morning was a 40 to 50 drive home. The road also changes speeds from 100 to 90 to 110. You'd often get people who would stick at 90 after it's changed to 110. On this day I was making my way through the traffic, but the whole way everyone was only doing 50 to 60. After about 40 minutes I wasn't even halfway home, but I'd gotten close to the front. I could see the road was clear ahead, but there were these two jerks driving side by side. I could clearly see the driver in the left lane talking to the one on the right. They were having a laugh, raving and pointing behind them, laughing again. I saw red. These jerks seemed to be making a game out of holding up thousands of commuters. Then I noticed the business deeds on the back window of the guy on the right. Phone number, email, Instagram, website. You name it, he had it. I took a pic of it for later and then called him. Hey mate, is this blah blah from so-and-so painting? That's me. How can I help? Well, I was just driving and got your number from your back window. You're looking for a quote? No, I'm looking for you and your mate to stop talking to each other on the highway while holding up all the traffic. I'm the guy sitting right behind you. Move your car. He must have sped off at about 200 an hour, and so did his mate. I went to our mate's plate and filled him in. He grabbed the business details and we shared them with a load of our friends. We all prank called him, signed his email up for all sorts of weird stuff, visited his socials and posted stuff about how we were treated when we used his services and that he's a shady tradie. The next story is called Never Clarified. I've worked for the same restaurant chain since I was 16. At first, it was just a part-time job to make money while in high school. At 18, I ended up transferring to a location a few hours away, where I was going to college and got promoted to supervisor. After a semester, I ended up dropping out of school due to the effects it was having on my mental health. I've never been very motivated by money, just want to pay my bills and have a simple life with good friends and family nearby. So I decided to stick with this company and continue to work my way up until I could manage my own location. Ever since I dropped out of college though, my dad took every opportunity to try and persuade me to do something more serious with my life. He's always been very motivated by money, so it's hard for him to understand why I don't feel the same way, which I could understand to some extent. But after 2 years of every single conversation with my dad ending in an argument over my career choice, it had heavily impacted our relationship. It's very demeaning being constantly reminded that you are wasting your life or not being responsible, even though I was in my own apartment with my own car at just 18 years old. We didn't have a healthy relationship to begin with, so this added disagreement just made me even more resentful. One day, I finally had the opportunity to move out of state, where a lot of my extended family lived, along with being promoted to assistant manager at this new location. When I told my dad this, he begged me to look for another job. He said he was embarrassed by my profession and wished he could post about my accomplishments like my siblings. He ended up offering me $2,000 if I found a job that would pay me $14 or more per hour. Generous, yes, but I'd rather have a dad who supports me. Or at least doesn't belittle me, you know. Anyway, I texted the manager I had been in contact with about my transfer to ask if we could discuss my pay. I convinced her to increase the offer from $13.75 to $14.25. I told my dad I had gotten an offer for more than $14 and asked for the $2,000, as it was time for me to put down my deposit for my new apartment. He said he would eventually, but that technically he never clarified when he had to pay me. He had plenty of money, but was always stingy with it. I told him I'd just ask my grandma for a loan, since he wasn't following through, and I'd use his money to pay her back eventually. Of course, he didn't want our family to know he was being a jerk, so he sent me the money. Afterwards, he asked me about my new job, to which I said, I'm not getting a new job, I'm just getting a raise. I could hear the steam coming out of his ears over the phone. He started yelling and demanding I send back the money, but I told him, well, you're right, you never clarified when you'd have to pay up. But you also never clarified that the wage I needed had to come from a different job. I hung up and kept the money. We didn't talk for a while and still hardly talk now. The third story is called Got 2 Managers Fired. I was with a pretty new company as assistant manager. We got a new general manager and she started off great. Helpful, caring, everything you would want a manager to be. After about a month, she started showing how she really was. Hostile with customers, coming in hungover daily. I found a new job and put in my 2 weeks. About 3 days before my last day, our regional came in and asked why I was leaving. I told him everything. She was fired on the spot and they gave me a raise to stay. So I did. We ended up getting a new manager, who once again seemed amazing. Knowledgeable, hardworking, amazing. Turns out she was exactly like the previous manager, but more spiteful. I once again found a new job. At the end of my last day, I sent an email to everyone in corporate, explaining exactly why I was leaving in detail. Within a week she was fired, and they've been calling me, trying to get me to come back for a raise. I know more than most of corporate about how to do my job and the manager's job. I have trained everyone who works there on how to do their job, but I refused. From what I've heard, the place is going straight downhill and there's not much to do to save it. I feel oddly satisfied with how things ended. The last story is called Young and Petty. I was 15, got my first paycheck job working for a fast casual restaurant. The manager was incompetent, changing his mind about what people should be doing. Sent me out to bus tables. Then before I could get started, sent me back to wash dishes. And people were practically crashing into each other. I found out that he got the job by nepotism, with no experience. He also violated labor laws. He pressured me to work till close on school nights when I was underage for that. All around, a really bad job. But I knew they were desperate. I watched a dishwasher get fired for getting angry and breaking dishes against the wall. He got rehired 3 days later. I was planning to give 2 weeks notice and quit anyway, but in the initial hiring interview, I said there's this weekend thing in a few months I'll be out of town. I had saved up for, and I'd be out a certain Thursday to Sunday. The manager said 100% no problem, just put it on the time off request in advance, like the week before. I did that, then found I was on the schedule afterward, so I went to the manager, who went full jerk mode, to the point of telling me, there are lots of people looking for work. If you don't want to follow the schedule, I can hire someone to replace you in 5 minutes. A couple of days later, I was scheduled 5 PM to close on a Saturday night. I was the only dishwasher. So, I called at 4:50 and told him I was quitting immediately. He was incredulous that I would do that. Then I said, you told me you could replace me in 5 minutes. You've got 10. I found out when I went to get my paycheck that he was furious all evening and ended up having to wash the dishes himself. Probably the first time he ever did anything. He was thankfully fired a couple of weeks later because of his incompetence. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.